Well, good morning and thank you very much for joining us. I am Iyori Folani. I suppose every country around the world, the American election has been something of an event for them. US does have that distinction. Maybe to a lesser extent, the Brits as well. But certainly, for whatever reason, the Americans. So now we have a new president in America. Well, did I just say we? They have a new president in America. Our president has sent his congratulations. When we spoke about it yesterday morning, it was that, as we say in Nigeria, it hasn't actually been called yet. But now I can say it has been called. Kamala Harris, the Democrat candidate, has indeed given her acceptance speech. Yes, concession. Concession is the word. Has given her concession speech, and Donald Trump, as can be expected, has been jubilating with his supporters. Okay, so we'll look at it again today. I did say that when America has an election, a presidential election especially, the whole world sort of sits up, listens, and takes note. So what exactly would be, maybe, let's say, the surprises and the lessons for Nigeria? Were you surprised that President Trump came back after a gap of one term, 4 years in between? Or were you not surprised? And are there lessons in it for Nigeria? That's the general area of conversation this morning. But our president was one of those who got in his congratulatory message to President-elect Trump. Well, it's interesting, President-elect President Trump, because he does have that name for the rest of his life, President Trump. So, President-elect President Trump, if you get my little joke there, he certainly is on the way to the White House. Now our guest this morning, Modupe Ajibola. Mr. Ajibola is founder of THERE, Voters Access to Representatives in Election. Then there's Mr. Femi Ojukutu, national strategist of Boot Party. He's a lawyer, and he's also a chartered accountant and social commentator. I can see your picture there. Okay, I can also see the other picture. They will be joining us via Zoom, both of them in the USA. Those two names I've mentioned in the USA. Good morning, gentlemen. I'll be coming to you very, very, very shortly. And then there's Richard Ogunrotifa. He's a policy development analyst and good governance advocate. So, gentlemen, let me take Mr. Ajibola first. Good morning to you, Mr. Ajibola. Oh, God, I understand that Ajibola is not here yet. Mr. Ojukutu. Good morning, Mr. Ojukutu.
Good morning, Mr. Iyori. It's nice to have me. And how are you today, sir?
Thank you very much. Great. I'm feeling great. I hope you are too. And then Mr. Yes, Richard Ogunrotifa. Good morning to you, Mr. Ogunrotifa.
Good morning. And how are you today?
Very well, thank you. I hope you're good as well. For some reason, you two gentlemen appear a bit on the sort of, subtle, sober side. Let me take it from Mr. Ojukutu. Let me ask the question that our caption is putting. Are there any surprises and lessons for Nigeria in the happenings in the America? I'll take it to you first. I'll bring the same question to Mr. Ogunrotifa.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Iyori. Yeah, the election has come and gone, has been lost and won. But I can tell you, there are so many lessons learned by the voters, by the participants in the election, and by the voting system. So there are a lot of lessons to learn in the US and by extension in Nigeria. I mean, there are so many things that happen that we need to learn a lesson. Yeah, so first, to put it in perspective, I must say that in as much as we practice presidential system in Nigeria, just as the US, the voting structure, the electoral structure or system is a lot different. So it's difficult to kind of compare them, on the four, because in the US, they don't have anything like in the Independent National Electoral Commission.
Exactly.
So elections are conducted by the counties, that is by like local government. So it's not something that you have somebody sitting down there waiting for him to collate and announce the result. So that's the first thing we should take. And the second thing is that the voting for the election starts sometimes like 1 month or 1.5 months before the election. And they have three types, like there is mail-in ballot. Everybody who is qualified to vote will be sent a ballot. And they have the absentee ballots, and you can vote before the election, and they have the D-Day. So that's the general difference. I think I just needed to put that in perspective. But regarding the lessons learned, I think as we go along in this session, we'll be discussing those lessons.
Indeed. Mr. Ogunrotifa, how about your take on this whole question?
Thank you, Mr. Yori.
Yori will do, please. Yori Folarin. Thank you very much.
Yori Folarin.
Yes.
I must categorically and clearly tell you that the U.S. election have come and gone, and the expectation of people, some are met, some are not met. But the fact remains that the Constitution of the United States of America is sacrosanct, and every citizen of America respects that Constitution. And that is why, if you see immediately after the election, whoever wins will receive a call from the other side. And that is what Kamala Harris did when she confirmed that the election has been won. Aside that, every agitators, every supporters of Kamala Harris, without any equivocation, would immediately follow their leader. I think this is something that is worth emulating. Election is not by emotion. Election is statistics. If you have it in mind, then work among your people. Have the support of your people. Then if you win, good. If you don't win, allow whoever wins or congratulate whoever wins so that things can go on. That is what that is why I'm about to relate this with Nigerian settings. Every election in Nigeria, everybody won. And that is why you see court cases coming up. Even when somebody knows that he has lost election, he will still go to court, wasting people's resources and all that. So this is my observation about and cross-fertilization of idea between U.S. and
okay, it hung up there, but you had landed the thoughts. I'm sure it'll be back up. Coming back to you, Femi Ojukutu, as to the question, any surprises? Were you surprised? Because it seemed to be a sort of a high-tension affair for a lot of the time of the election. We were hearing from pundits that it was too close to call. Were you surprised when it finally emerged that former President Trump is coming back as the president-elect?
Yes, I mean, it was a surprise. I wouldn't say too much a big surprise because the set was very close. I mean, the first lesson learned was the fact that there were a lot of predictions, in the US and the UK and other countries. They do what they call polls, They do the polls to kind of give you an indication of where this election is tilting. And until the last minute, all we're hearing was it's very close. Like it's going to be something that will drag on. Like, okay, they finished the election. They need to count to make sure every vote counts because the margin is very narrow, like 5,000 votes, 10,000 votes. But it didn't turn out to be that. We are seeing a situation where Donald Trump won by 5, 4, 3, 6% in those states that are regarded as swing states in the US. And what they mean by swing states in the US is those states where at some point they vote for the Democrats, at some point they vote for the Republicans. There are some pure red states. Red states are those states that are Republican. There's nothing you can do, they will be won by Republicans. And we have the blue states that there's nothing you do, they will be won by Democrats. So when election comes, the Democrats don't go to the Republican area to campaign because it's a waste of time. Now, same applies to the Republican. So those states that they call purple states or swing states are the state they call the battleground states. And these states are in the Rust Belt and the Sun Belt states. So the Sun Belt are states like Georgia, North Carolina, Florida, and down this way is the Rust Belt. You have Wisconsin, we have Michigan, and we have Pennsylvania. Those 7 states are the battleground. And in the course of the election, all we're hearing was, it's very close. Today, you see a poll that says Donald Trump is leading by 1 point. Tomorrow, you see that it's tied. Day after, it's Kamala Harris. And we felt, oh, this was going to be a big battle between the two of them. But it's like the demographics, everything in this election changed. And it was a landslide. We regard it as a landslide because it wasn't close at all. In fact, we thought that the election would go into 48 hours before we knew the winner. But on the night of the election, we got to know the winner because there was a big distinction between the votes that were cast. And why I said it's a landslide was the last election in 2016, Donald Trump did not win the national mandate. In 2020, he also lost. But this time around, he did not only win the Electoral College. I mean, maybe I need to explain what the Electoral College is. He also won the national votes. So this time around is a very clear statement by Americans that we want Donald Trump.
Indeed.
And the lesson for Democrats is for them to go back to the drawing table and find out exactly what was wrong. But it was a big surprise, and we shall be discussing that as we go.
Indeed. Well, how about you, Richard? What?
Well, there are a lot of surprises. One, Donald Trump has made record that he's the first convicted felon to become an American president. It's a surprise. I don't know how he maneuvered his way to even contest that election. And another thing is that there is decline in the base of Democrats in some states in America. If you look at it from Obama's time, where Obama had 60%, during Hillary's election, it declined, and during Joe Biden's, it declines, and now it's declining more and more. It means something is wrong in the stronghold, and that has given Trump a hedge over them. It's also a surprise that Trump is contesting because at that time, we never believed he would come out again to contest after losing the first one. And he was determined, and he was playing on his agenda, and people saw it, both pleasant agenda and the unpleasant one, and people even encouraged him to contest. So the Americans will face the consequence of their action.
Indeed. Okay, that will bring me to a question of into the Trump presidency, seeing as we have at least an experience of it. Yeah, it was truncated by the election, and so, you know, most presidents want to go for 8 years. Well, President Trump will be having his 8 years, but with a gap in between, and all sorts of policies have been holding sway since then. But going back to what both you gentlemen spoke about in the opening minutes of the program, the sort of lessons. Now, when you look at it, Femi, when you look at the situation that we have on our hands now, I noted that Kamala Harris, in her concession speech, there's a line there, a sentence there that I sort of picked out, and that was that she was speaking to those she addressed, and she said, well, we have to accept the results of these elections, even as she went on to say whatever else. I just picked out one sentence: we have to accept the results of these elections. And this was from a person who the elections, you know, tabulation, coalition had said had lost. And she was making that statement within minutes of, well, she was a bit slow to make the concession speech, perhaps understandably. But that particular idea, I imagine it is one of the things that we could sort of learn from here. But it's your impressions that we want.
Yeah, you see, the electoral system and the democratic system in the US is a bit different from that of Nigeria. You know, the organization, how it's conducted. One of the shortcomings of the Nigerian electoral system is the fact that we practically do everything manually. And when they came up with is it BVS or BVAD, it wasn't implemented. The National Assembly did not go ahead to give INEC the kind of backing they needed to make that thing happen. And also, there was an overpromise saying that results will be released online. Yeah, online, was it going to be real time? Was there any coordination between INEC and the NCC and the carriers for them to be able to have the bandwidth to communicate those results? All those things were not found out before they started telling us it would be online. They didn't tell us it was going to be real time. They said online. And the assumption of Nigerians was that as soon as the results were being released, everybody would see the result. And that was not the intention anyway, which caused a lot of issues. So because of the American democratic system, and because of the trust they have in the system, and because of the need for them to sustain democracy and to kind of differentiate herself from Donald Trump, who lost an election, because we now say, oh, well, we have to accept the result of this election. She is saying so, but Donald Trump never said so in 2020. He lost the election, and up to this point, he has not even accepted that he lost that election. And he did not hand over. He left the White House without handing over to the next president. So, I mean, that's something that never happened in the US. But Kamala Harris is from a different background. She's a prosecutor, she's a lawyer, she knows what it is for people to hand you a mandate and for them to take the mandate from you. So she had to kind of subscribe to the fact that she had lost that election. In the case of Nigeria, the way our election is conducted, the election happened the same day. And in some places, as at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, they'll be telling you that they have not even received the ballot papers. And in some places, they will tell you that they were still voting until 11 p.m. In the US, once they say it's 7 p.m., if you are not on the queue by 7 p.m., you cannot vote again because they're giving you over a month to vote. They've sent you a mail ballot. You could vote before the election day. And on the election day, they will open around 7 in the morning. And as soon as they open, you go in there. The ballot papers are there. They're not waiting for ballot papers. And they finish at 7. If you go there, if you're on the line by 7 o'clock, you vote. In Nigeria, intentionally, you will see a situation where they will not bring voting materials. All sorts of things happen. And at the end, it takes time to even collate because of the terrain of Nigeria. If you go to Bayelsa State as an example, they have all these terrains that they have to now bring the results down to the city or them to go to the local government, collate, they move to the state collation center, move to the INEC collation center. That takes a lot of time for them to coordinate the result and announce the result. So because of that, and because of all these vulnerabilities between the time you fingerprint and the time it gets to the INEC, there is a lot of suspicion that the result has been changed. So when I believe in my mind, just as Kamala Harris believes she will win, if it had been in Nigeria, she would dispute the result because she would feel, oh, something changed. And even some people in the US have already started saying that, no, why could they have had that many people voting in 2020 and the number is less now by almost 10 million? How can that happen? Something happened to the system. But we know that the systems are well secured. Even if there was fraud, it's always very, very minimal. So we cannot really compare that with Nigeria, where voting happened the same day and the logistic issue, kind of permits the whole system. So in America, it's easy for you to see clearly that you have lost because you have people on ground. In America, they have people who volunteered, hundreds of thousands of people volunteering. You see vote watchers, they will be there. All sorts of people will be there to watch from beginning to the end. So if you are challenging the election, sometimes you don't have basis. And that was why Trump went to court and his allies, they went to court 60 times during the 2020 elections, and they lost all those suits. And it was when they had lost all those suits, up to the Supreme Court level, that they now resorted to, trying to stop the swearing in of the certification of the election, Joe Biden, the election winner. So that is the contrast between US and Nigeria.
Indeed. Well, thank you. Richard, there's so many things in the election that we don't have a parallel for in Nigeria. Number one, how President Trump, emerged on the ballot of the Republicans. First of all, he's a big man. I say that people know he's touted to be a billionaire and all that kind of thing. People are even, quote unquote, afraid of him within the Republican Party. I don't think we have any such parallel. But then, more importantly for the question I'm about to pose is the fact that President Trump was bent on coming to the White House again because, as has just been said by Femi, he hasn't even conceded that he lost the last election. So he was feeling as if it seemed that I'm claiming my mandate back. That was the attitude with which he came. But nevertheless, he's won more clearly now, arguably, than when he lost to the Democrats. That says one thing, that a lot of Americans want President Trump. That is their right, and they have exercised that right. And here we have Trump. And it seems to be what Trump has been saying all along. What would be your commentary?
Of course, the terrain in America is different from the terrain we have in Nigeria. And that you cannot rule out the tricks of politics in the game that just played out, even during the electioneering campaign. In the same mind of the Democrats, I am of the opinion that they cannot launch attack on Donald Trump during his campaign. So that attempt on Trump's life on that campaign day actually projected him beyond imagination. Because ordinarily, before that time, Trump was never seen as a serious contender with Joe Biden. It was after the event that Joe Biden willingly considered that position for his deputy to take over. If that event has not happened, I believe Joe Biden will want to contest for the second time. And it will be a very tough battle for Donald Trump. So the politics that played during the electioneering campaign was the politics that played within. When Donald Trump was able to get the ticket of the Republican. And in Nigeria here, we understand how our own president tried to, cling to the ticket of APC. Then it was a tough battle. It was even a banter between this incumbent president and the previous one on who is to have the ticket of the party. Even within the party, within the APC, there are some Tinubu's allies who were used and brought out to contest against Tinubu. We all thought that Tinubu would not have the chance to get the party ticket. So we can see a similarity in what happened in America and what is happening here. Sometimes it might be difficult. The leader of the party might say, you are not getting it, and you might prove yourself to be more powerful than the leader of the party by using instrumentality of people you have and other resources you have to get whatever you need.
Okay.
That is my opinion on that.
All right. Let me just bring on our first caller. Good morning, Mr. Joshua in Irewolide.
Yes, Uncle Yori. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Thank you for calling in.
And I greet your guests.
All right, then.
Thank you very much.
Uncle Yori, my contribution is bringing it home to Nigeria. And I would like it if your guests can help us to talk more on that. The lesson for me, I thought that Trump was never going to be an issue in American politics again. Talk less of him winning the presidency based on the indictment and all the things that happened towards the tail end of his presidency. Here now we have Trump is back to America. That is the American story as it is today, and that is their democracy. Times International said a president doesn't have to be innocent. It's not about the innocence of the person. I picked that line even before the election. Now, coming to Nigeria, Uncle Yori, let us understand that America belongs to Americans. They have shown it very clearly. Americans are voting for America. They are voting for Trump because of his hardline position towards non-Americans, as it were. He has strong border policies and all that, and he kept reinforcing it, meaning that Americans want America. Now, we as Nigerians, do we have that same spirit of wanting Nigeria? Then in any election, the first thing you will hear is International community, come and collect our country. International community. Everybody will be shouting international community. As if we don't have a nation.
Yeah.
We are always prizing Nigeria to outsiders and telling them to come and buy it. The American election should speak to our politicians that we have only one nation and we should settle down to make this country work. My take here is that whatever election that happened in America can happen here in Nigeria. We have knowledge. We have the same head as them. We have the same brain. We can deploy our knowledge, our expertise that we use in other areas to conduct a good election that will give us good leadership so that our nation will move out of the brink of collapse if we work together. That's the way I want to address it, sir.
Much for calling in, Mr. Joshua in Irewole there. Okay, well, this is time. Let me just give my thanks to Richard Ogunrotifa, policy development analyst and good governance advocate. I want to thank you very much for coming on our program because I understand that you have to nip off. So thank you for staying as long as you did. Okay, so we'll take a break now. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere, please.